I'm Maureen. I am on the Education Partnerships team here at Khan Academy. Used to be sitting where you all are right now. I used to be a teacher. I taught on the border of Texas and Mexico at a charter school and joined Khan Academy afterwards and have been here for the last couple years, working closely with schools, teachers, administrators, helping people figure out how to get Khan Academy working in a really effective way. So a lot of you are super familiar with Khan Academy already. You know that we started with Sal in pajamas, making videos for his cousin Nadia, who was across the country trying to learn math. And since then, we have grown into a much larger organization where not only do we have videos, we have exercises, we have computer science, we have a camp going on right now where kids are building robots. So the organization has grown a lot, and I wanted to give you just a glimpse into some other content areas that we are now focusing on in addition to just math.
We could integrate over the surface, and the notation usually is a capital sigma. All of these interactions are just due to the gravity over interstellar, or almost you could call it intergalactic. This animal's fossils are only found in this area of South America, a nice clean band here. Notice this is an aldehyde, and it's an alcohol. Is there 30 million plus the $20 million from the American manufacturer. They create the Committee of Public Safety, which sounds like a very nice committee.
This is not Eve.
No, Botticelli's portrayed the ancient goddess of love.
This is 6 times 6 times 6, or 216.
I'm told the humidity makes it feel hotter. Why is this?
Excellent question, LeBron.
Let's just like make it 11.
Play with the pendulum and get a feel for how it moves.
Function as a bridge rectifier.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
If this does not blow your mind, then you have no emotion.
Awesome. So we are here today to focus on math, and we will spend the rest of the day figuring out how Khan Academy can work in your math classrooms. Just a glimpse into some other subject areas that we have content experts in as well. In order to get into the mindset that we need you to have today, we wanted to start off with a hands-on activity. And we have some gracious volunteers to help us, so come run up. The activity that we're going to do is called co-creating a drawing. And the way that it works is you will partner up with whoever is sitting next to you or someone behind you, and you will each grab a pen. And one of you will start, and you'll start drawing something, and as soon as you lift up your pen, your turn is over. And then it's the other person's turn, and they will add to your drawing, and as soon as they pick up their pen, it's over for that person. And you just keep on going back until you've created a drawing together. When you feel like your drawing is done, you'll start to title it, and you'll go back and forth with letters. So let's go ahead and see a demo. Let's get started. Oh. Oh, tall. Oh, you picked up your pen 3 times. I know, you got really, it's all right. It's easy to get into it. Oh. All right, are we starting to title? Tall is thrown by the S. What to do with the S? Oh, we've got 2 words going on the left. Oh. Oh, he was sure. He was sure that it was not going to be a U. What do we have here? Oh. Okay. Clearly people like multi-word titles here. C puns! Exclamation smiley face. Good, there's feeling behind that title. So you all have this in your binders right behind the agenda. You should have a blank sheet of paper. Go ahead and partner up. We'll quiet down the silent activity and go for it. Ooh, nice. Detailed drawings. Ooh. So I see lots of giggling. I want to know, like, what was this like? What was it like to draw a drawing with someone else? What was going through your mind as you were doing this activity? Don't be afraid. Yeah.
Trying to keep more than one option open.
Trying to keep more than one option for you or for your partner?
Both.
For both. So you were trying to keep in mind, how can I keep this going so that you could keep on playing this game? Good. What else? Yeah, just speak loudly.
Yeah, that's fine. I was trying to predict what my partner was going to draw next.
Okay, so you were trying to read someone's mind. Was anyone else here trying to read someone else's mind? Yeah, lots of like hypothesizing, like what is the other person thinking? So did you always think, were you always right in sync with your partner?
No.
So you were having to maybe respond to what your partner was doing. Okay, and what was that like? Was it? You had to be willing to let go of your own expectations. I'm just gonna repeat that. You had to be willing to let go of your expectations. And how did that feel?
For me, momentary frustration and then just let go.
Okay, so just a little bit of frustration. Was anyone else just a little bit frustrated with your partner? Yeah, but then it was okay, right? You were able to let go a little bit. What about curveballs? Did anyone get thrown a curveball? Oh, laughter in acknowledgement. Let me hear about some of these curveballs. Maybe it's a title or, I think these people are still drawing and debriefing right here. They're still throwing each other curveballs. Okay, so who got thrown a curveball and what was that like? Anyone? Yeah.
I think given the opportunity, if the curveball happened, it allowed for something more creative to come out.
Okay, so when a curveball happened, it opened up space to do more creative things. So that is an excellent attitude to have towards a curveball, which is, whoa. And you might be frustrated for just a moment, but then you have to get back on your feet and creatively problem solve and do something else. Even that you have to let go, but you were able to come up with a solution still, right? Good. Any interesting titles? I'm always interested in the titles. Sentences, expressions, emoticons. I saw some emoticons. It's okay. We had C puns. I definitely thought that was going to be C pizza.
So did Tal.
Tal, how did you feel about that?
Momentarily frustrated.
Tal was momentarily frustrated. Anne, what were you thinking when you put the U there? What did you think it was going to be?
I don't know. I just thought it would make it exciting.
So. Anne thought it would make it exciting. Do you ever have students who think they can make your class more exciting? You can probably think of those students right now. I'm sure you can tell why we did this activity. The mindset that you have when doing a co-create a drawing activity, the fact that you have to stay open-minded, that you have to stay flexible, that you have to have an attitude where when you're thrown curveballs, you're gonna figure out how to creatively problem solve around it. This is all of the things we want you to keep in mind when you're implementing Khan Academy in your classroom, okay? Today is not about giving you a scripted curriculum. There is no one right way to do this. But we are going to give you a lot of tools today. And we're going to show you a lot of best practices. But then it's up to you to take what is useful and relevant to your classroom and start. And you're going to have an idea about how you want it to go. And then your kids are going to respond to you in Khan Academy. And I promise you, the picture that you start out with is not what it's going to end up looking like at the end of the year. It's okay. Be willing to let go of those expectations. Have the attitude where you're ready to respond and have creative problem solving around all of those curveballs that get thrown at you, especially when your students decide to do something that makes class exciting, right? You want to be able to have that flexibility, that willingness to adapt. So this is the frame of mind we want you in today. It's also the frame of mind we want you in when you are doing your implementation in your classroom. So in the activity that we did today, we started out with a blank sheet of paper. But when you enter the educational system, you are entering something that is very complex. And there's this thing that happens at schools, and we tend to take it for granted. And it's this fact that we take students who all have a birthday that are within a year of each other, and we put them in a room, and we teach them a subject, 45, 50 minutes. The bell rings, we take that group of students, we move them into another room, we teach them another subject, 45, 50 minutes. The bell rings, we take that same group of students, we put them in another room. This is something that happens day after day, week after week, month after month. And when you think about it, it is a pretty efficient way of educating the masses. But anyone who's ever spent time in a classroom knows that classes are full of individuals. And there's always that one student she's bored, right? Like she has already learned this topic over the summer with her parents. She knows it. Then there's that student terrified. He's so scared. He just moved to your district from another school district where the curriculum's totally different. Or maybe he was sick the last couple of weeks and he has no idea what is going on today, right? So what happens to these students for whatever reason they've fallen behind? Well, often we find that they have a really weak math foundation. And when you think about how to build a house, so let's imagine that we're all going to build a giant house together. And we hire a contractor and we say, you know what, we have 3 months to put in a foundation for this house. And the contractor's like, all right, good, yeah, we can do that. So he starts to build a foundation. But a month in, it starts to rain and it's pouring and it seems ceaseless. The raining never stops. By the end of the 3 months, our foundation is kind of done, but there are a lot of really soft spots. Our building inspector comes in and says, oh, your foundation is, I'm gonna give it an 80% because there's still so many soft spots here. And we say, 80%? That's passing, let's build a first floor. So we go ahead and we build a first floor and we have, let's say we have 6 months to build a first floor in. And we tell our contractor, you know, here's how we want the room set up, and he's like, we're all good. 4 months in, we can't find lumber anywhere. We bought all of it, there's a shortage in the supply chain. For whatever reason, we can't get the lumber to finish our first floor. We do the best that we can. We bring our inspector, our building code inspector back in at the end of 6 months, and he says, oh, this is a nice first floor. You know, there are some really shaky pieces of wood that could use more support, but I'll give you guys like a 77%. Like 77%, that's passing. Let's build a third floor, or a second floor, and then a third. What happens at the end? Our house falls, right? Because we're building on top of really shaky foundations. And it's not the building code inspector's fault. It's not the contractor's fault. It's not our fault. It's the fault of a process, right? That requires certain things to be done in certain amounts of time instead of saying, let's get you to success and then start another level. So this is what we see in math, right? And this is why we often get students who have Swiss cheese holes when they enter our classrooms. They had a teacher who was absent, they were absent, they had to move, whatever it is, they have Swiss cheese holes. And the hard thing about this is that not all of your students have the same hole, right? You have students who have trouble with negative numbers. You have another group of students who have trouble with fractions. Whatever it may be, it makes your job really difficult to be able to meet every single student's needs. So, I always like to start out with this because this is the problem that Khan Academy tries to solve. We're not about sitting kids down and leaving them in front of computers all day. We're about fixing this problem. So when we think about Khan Academy in the classroom, we really think about 3 core pillars. So the first is we believe that education should be mastery-based. And what this means is, we really believe that students should know algebra really, really well before they move on to calculus. We think that students should know how to do one-step equations before they do two-step equations. We also think that learning should be personalized. So if you have students who have a specific weakness in fractions, we think that students should be able to take the time to remedy that, fill in that gap before moving on. And so personalized really is about self-pacing, giving students the time they need, and also letting students know where they are and where they're going, and giving them the agency to say, I'm not ready for the next lesson. I need a little bit more time on this. And the third pillar is interactive. We believe that teachers and students should be interacting, that there should be a really heavy social component to your classroom. What we see in classes is students getting up and peer tutoring each other, realizing that they have the ability to teach someone else something that they are knowledgeable about. And that is, what a gift to see that in your classroom, right? Like when a student is able to peer tutor someone else, that's when you know that that student really understands it. They've internalized it. We think that you should have the power to look at your data and see that these 4 students are ready to get off Khan Academy and do a deep dive into a hands-on project. You're gonna hear from Tal and Sunny about how interactive their classrooms became because of the tools that Khan Academy was able to provide them with. So how do we do this? We think that data is the key. Data is the vehicle that's gonna allow you to say, ooh, half of my class is not ready for tomorrow's lesson. I'm gonna do a small group with them instead. Data is what allows you to personalize that learning for every single student, so that if you have just one kid who isn't getting a concept, they can access that material and practice it on our site. And data is what also enables you to see that that student is going to be a perfect peer tutor for that student, or whatever that pairing ends up being. So we've already started to see some success with this. And what you're looking at here is a coach report where on the x-axis, it's the number of days working on the site, and on the y-axis, it's the number of exercises that have been completed. And each of these lines is a student. This is a report from our very first pilot in Los Altos, and you can see that this student right here kind of started out middle of the pack. But as the days went on, this student was able to work on the exercises, on the gaps that that specific student had. And by the end of his time on Khan Academy for this year, he's at the very top of his class. When you give students the ability to fill in their gaps, you can see them accelerate in ways that you could not have anticipated. And this is amazing because we live in a system right now where students are often tracked. And if they are tracked for a remedial math class or an average math class, then they may not believe, or they may not even have the opportunity to show what they're capable of. And so with Khan Academy, we want to unleash that potential by giving students the time and the access to content that they need. This is an example of a student who's more in the middle of the road, middle of his class. I also like to talk about students who are at the very top of their class. So this is a student at Stratford Private Schools and a pilot, gosh, is it 2 years ago now? 2 years ago. 4th grade, I visited his classroom on a day during first semester, and every student was holding like pillow pets. Are you familiar with this? They're like little stuffed animals. It was Pillow Pet Day, and and at that time they were using Khan Academy just every Friday. By 2nd semester, they were using Khan Academy every single day. And when I knelt down next to him during 2nd semester, I asked him, "Tell me what you're learning about right now in Khan Academy." And he walked me step by step through how to factor polynomials. This is a 10-year-old who was holding a pillow pet like just months earlier. This was incredible. I typically work with high schools, and when I visited his class, he was working on the same material that 9th and 10th graders are usually working on. This is an example of a student who worked his way from 1+1 in a mastery-based fashion through Khan Academy, and with no restrictions, no one holding him back, he was able to learn at a super accelerated rate. And this is content that he would not have normally been exposed to in a 4th grade curriculum. So this is just another example of some student success that we've had. I do want to talk about teachers though, because you all are a very important part of this process. So I wanted to give some voice to the teachers to talk about how it's worked in their classrooms.
Khan Academy doesn't allow the students to hide the deficits in their knowledge. It really challenges you to provide really excellent lessons for as many students as possible because you just have all of this information about your students.
Previously, when they looked at a homework problem that was difficult, they stopped. I can't get it, I won't do it. Something about Khan seduces them into doing more effort. They start taking responsibility for their own education.
2 minutes before Khan Academy math time is over, I ring the bell just to let them know it's time to wrap up. And then they groan and they scream and they say, "No! 2 more minutes! 2 more minutes! 5 more minutes!" And that's always a joy for teachers to see that kids don't want to stop learning. I'll probably never go back to the way I used to teach.
A lot of what we're going to be talking to you about today are best practices learned from our pilot schools here in the Bay Area. And so I always like to show the schools that we've worked with. We also work with a lot of other schools around the country, some of you which are here today with us. But just know that everything that you're learning today is rooted in actual practice. And we have some of the teachers here today with us. We started our pilot in the Bay Area a couple years ago, but we know that we're also part of something much larger. So these are some numbers about our site now. We know that we're in about 29,000 classrooms. Every day there are 2 to 3 million math problems that are done on our site. So you are part of something that is very large and very exciting. When you have those moments of frustration or angst, I want you to remember that you're part of a bigger community and that we're all here trying to figure out how this works together. Around this time, I usually like to show this guy, which is Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. I remember watching him when I was a kid and thinking, those cell phones are never gonna catch on. They're big and they're clunky and they look silly. Now, our cell phones it's how I get to work, it's how I find my direction to go anywhere, it's how I email, it does a lot of things for me. It's a pretty magical device. I like to bring this up because when you think about technology, revolutions, or big movements, they always have to start somewhere. And often where they start is not particularly glamorous. And all of you are in this room today because you are interested in an early technology that can really help you in your classrooms. And we want to help you get there too, but we also want to acknowledge that we are not by any means a silver bullet. we're kind of like a big clunky cell phone, to be honest. We have a long way to go, and we are learning from all of you. We're learning every day. We're changing things every day to get better and better. We hope to get to a much better place. Put that away. But right now, we're still a little clunky. And as you get familiar with our site, you're gonna start thinking to yourself, oh, I wish it worked like this, or I wish it had this functionality, or I wish I could talk to my students through the site, or whatever it may be. We wanna get there, but we're glad that you're with us now. And we want you to be on this journey with us, giving us feedback, letting us know how to get better. So with that, my advice to you now and for the rest of today and even after this workshop is to start simple, just start. It is the best way to use Khan Academy. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need your whole team doing this with you. You need to just get your students on Khan Academy and start and see how they're responding to it, and give yourself that time and space to get familiar with it, and everything will evolve from there. So you're gonna hear me say this a lot today. You're gonna get sick of hearing me say this a lot today, but this is my one piece of advice, is to start simple, just start.